How's it going, Vibe Tribe? My name is Parker. I'm back today to make another reaction video. Today we got how did the British Empire rule the world? I was just checking out how my other British history video did. You know, all the countries that Britain has invaded visualized. I'll go ahead and link that right here in the card. Um, and I was noticing a lot of people are really interested in it, and I'm actually getting feedback on that video, which is great. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another one. How did the British Empire rule the world? All right, let's get it. Yeah. All right, and we're back. Let's get right into the video. If you want to know more about me, I'll go ahead and cover that at the end of the video. Let's go.
Farewell and adieu to you, fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you, ladies of Spain. For we've received.
The British Empire may not have technically ruled the world, but it was in fact the largest empire to exist at any point throughout history.
Wow.
Reaching across the globe and carrying on over...
It all started right here on a little island. Look at this teensy little island. How the hell did it get to this? I guess that's what we are here to find out, right?
For multiple centuries, the British Empire owes its success and ability to expand so widely. The geographical position of Great Britain served as a major advantage to the growing empire. Given that the nation was an island, the likelihood of being invaded or conquered was somewhat lower than a country that was surrounded on all sides by foreign powers. Although Britain was not completely immune to incursions, it definitely benefited geographically, both in terms of external threats and when it came to any border disputes. Britain had a pretty clear and straightforward border between itself and any other nations. While Scotland and England split the landmass that was bilaterally united with the ascension of Scotland's King James VI to the throne of England in 1603, both states would together make up the nation of Great Britain by 1707, sharing their outward borders with nothing but the North Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea.
Wow, I literally had no idea that's where the flag came from. That's really interesting.
This open position, with easy access for maritime expeditions, also gave Great Britain an upper hand when it came to reaching other countries and continents. Needing only to cross over foreign land when they wished to reach countries more inward on their continent, the Brits were able to sail to just about any coastal nation without much resistance. Still, oceanic adventures would not have been so effortless for the British Empire without a strong naval fleet.
Yeah.
This is where the size and power of the Royal Navy became a center point of British success. While Great Britain did not always control the world's oceans, the reason they began to skyrocket as an unignorable maritime power by the 18th century is largely due to the fact that they invested more money in ships and guns than other naval forces. The government and citizens of the British Empire truly believed that the future of their wealth was to be found through the ocean. Recognizing the importance of overseas trade, as well as a fleet that could also defend their land if ever required, the Brits made sure to adequately fund the Royal Navy.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess if you're an island nation and you can't be invaded, especially, this is before planes were a thing, all that. If you're an island nation and you can't be invaded unless someone can land a boat on your shore, then screw it. Who needs an army? Just build a navy. Put all your soldiers on that. I mean, you'll be fine. They can't get to you, right? Just blow them out of the water. Wow, yeah. I mean, it makes sense why they put so much into it. It really does. And I'm surprised that, I guess because all the other nearby countries had, like you said, they had enemies as their neighbors, or they had neighboring landlocked countries, so they had to worry about ground invasions. But they didn't, so they just fully opted into their naval power and went with it. Wow.
The empire's focus on trade additionally contributed vastly to its triumphant transcontinental growth. Intent more on gaining wealth and increasing trade than on consolidating power through conquest, the Brits were able to create a more desirable environment for others to become a part of. After the successful colonization attempts in North America and the West Indies during the 1600s, the British Empire began to establish a commercial system that allowed for exponential success within Great Britain and its overseas territories. Colonies were granted monopolies for their products in the British market, and therefore were to conduct trade via British ships. In 1651, the Navigation Act would prompt the development of a closed economy between the empire and its colonies, thus creating a system where all colonial imports were required to come from Great Britain and all colonial exports were to be sent directly to the British market by the way of British ships. During the same century,
Damn, so they just started a bunch of shops basically around the world where they knew that certain parts of the world were going to bring certain resources that you wouldn't find in other parts of the world. So I guess they just tried to spread out, get resources from everywhere, consolidate them all back home, and then sell them en masse. I mean, I don't know how they could. It's crazy that they thought on that grand of a scale way back then. Like, they just had all of that planned out. And all through maps. Like, I don't know. It's just so big brain.
British East India Company was established as a means of trade between Great Britain, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. Initially focused on the spice trade, the East India Company later incorporated other goods such as silk, cotton, tea, opium, and more. Politics made its way into the company later on, despite the origin being purely based on establishing more trade opportunities. Driven limitlessly by the concept of controlling a global trade market, the British Empire continued to extend its reach across the continents of Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas. While the process of colonization varied from territory to territory, one thing that
Man, they just had those tiny little states in Canada, and now it looks like they just kind of have everything taken over there. They're already getting involved in Australia. I guess that would be New South Wales, right? Isn't that what that's called?
that remained consistent was the form in which these expeditions began. Unlike other empires who chose to expand through the use of military might and sovereign claims to power, the British facilitated most of their expansion through the establishment of trading posts and systems. Nonetheless, the British Empire was not a completely non-violent authority. On top of the Anglo-Dutch and Anglo-Spanish wars near the start of British expansion, the Empire also engaged in conflict with its American colonies during the American Revolutionary War, later followed by the dissension in India, succeeding the decline of the Mughal Empire, and leaving the British East India Company as a prominent political power in the region. The presence of Britain in India was also notably more forceful than some of their other trade-focused enclaves, demonstrated by the expansion of the East India Company's power through the threat of violence against those who protested. The continued tensions between the British and French were no longer secluded in India either, as the 7 Years' War erupted in 1756, lasting until the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763, leaving Britain as the leading power across India and the world's oceans. When the American Revolutionary War came in 1775, after the British Empire responded to the "no taxation without representation" movement of the Americans by sending troops to try and subdue the colonies, France and Spain chose once again to go to war with Britain, now as allies of the newly declared United States. In 1783, at the Peace of Paris, the British Empire was forced to acknowledge American independence, in turn relinquishing any control over their former colonies. Devising a new strategy after such a drastic loss of territory, Great Britain now turned its attention toward the continents of Asia, Africa, and Australia, marking what some historians call the beginning of the Second British Empire. Though trade between the United States and Great Britain actually continued after the installation of independence, the empire chose to utilize the uncolonized coasts of Australia, which had been discovered by a Dutch explorer, Willem Janszoon, in 1606, and later claimed for the British Crown by James Cook in 1770 under the name of New South Wales.
Yes.
Still feeding their
right.
fresh craving for
Yes.
expansion in South Asia, the British suddenly engaged in a series of conflicts after the Battle of Plassey, which had occurred in 1757. By 1774, the British Empire took on a chain of attacks. The Anglo-Mysore Wars were fought until 1799, followed by clashes with the Pindaris. Attacks on places like Sindh and Burma also accelerated the new consolidation efforts of the British East India Company, on top of what was referred to as the Doctrine Lapse, where the Brits forbid the ascension to the throne of any Hindu ruler if they were not the natural heir. Once the current Hindu leader either died or was removed in some way, the British would occupy his state and gain control. These acts by the British Empire, combined with other forms of forced westernization of the Hindus, led to the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857 to 1859. Tired of the current heavy-handed British rule, the Indian troops of Meru sparked a rebellion that would spread throughout the nation.
Dang, I didn't even know. There's so much about this empire that I just didn't even know about. Like, I knew they had influence in India, but I didn't know that it was just straight up ruled by Britain, or by Great Britain at this point. All of India, all these people, this huge area, all being ruled by an island that's half a world away. It's crazy. And he just mentioned that they had a revolt. I'm gonna go back and pay attention to that part.
Tired of the current heavy-handed British rule, the Indian troops of Meru sparked a rebellion that would spread throughout the nation. Peace was finally declared in July of 1859, and the British East India Company was scrapped. Although the empire maintained a level of control under the crown until 1947. During this span of time,
1947, Britain was still in India in the 1900s. What? Oh wait, no. Yeah, that makes sense because that's when Gandhi started doing his thing and got them out. Okay, no, that makes sense.
Great Britain set about making its presence better known in Africa as well. Although the Royal African Company had been established back in the 17th century, finding ample profit in the slave trade until its abolition in 1807, it was not until the 19th century that the Brits realized the potential benefit of forming a trade route across Africa. With its eyes set on establishing outposts spanning from Egypt down to the southern half of the continent, the British Empire found itself in a race against the other growing European powers, such as Italy and Germany, which eventually led to the Berlin Conference.
Oh man, this is where all of the dark parts of American and British history, I imagine, will start to show. All of this organization, all of this work, just to start slavery. And that is, well, not start slavery, but get a slave trade network going between continents, and that is disgusting. Unfortunately, it's part of our history as Americans or Britain, or I mean, if you go far enough back in any country's history, you might end up seeing slavery, but definitely in America, which is nauseating. I wish it wasn't true, but it's just the facts. Let's see where he goes with the rest of Africa's works here.
The conference, which occurred in 1884, was intended to create some harmony between the competing colonizers. Great Britain was ultimately awarded most of northeastern Africa and all of southern Africa, meaning that at its peak in the continent, the British Empire ruled over approximately 30% of the African population.
While ruling all of India? Holy crap, they had so much. Y'all had so much.
Globally, at the height of Britain's domination, it controlled roughly 22
And
to
Australia,
25%
and Canada.
of the world's land surface. And by 1938, governed around 20% of the world's population. This remarkable prosperity.
This little island, right here, that guy, right there. That island was a hub that controlled 20%, 1/5 of all people in the world were governed by this island right here. See that guy? That's wild.
Was accomplished through a geographical advantage, supreme naval might, and the strategic focus on trade and wealth over bullish sovereign power for the sake of an emperor.
Now, obviously, I'm not saying that all the things that they, obviously, I don't want to say in any way that all the things that the British have done are good. I'm not saying that they're admirable, but at the same time, you gotta respect it because, holy crap, they did so much. Like, they gotta be smart, colonizing 1/5 of the world. What the hell? What happened? I guess it was just the Navy. Like, if you can't control your coastlines against a foreign power and you're on the coast, then you're kind of screwed because they can just do whatever they want in your waters and you can't trade with people. Wow, they had so much power. It's just crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. If you guys want to keep talking about British history or anything like that, be sure to sub because I'm gonna be putting out more of these videos. If you want to keep talking about it today, go ahead and hop into my Discord server. I'll be in there for a couple hours after I post this video. So if you want to keep talking about anything history related that I've covered or anything that I've covered on my channel, hop into the Discord server, grab my, I'll hop into the voice channel and we can keep talking about the topic even after the video, which would be great. Anyway, love y'all. See you in the next one. Remember, vibes never die.
All we got is a bag in the backseat. And it's love we share, not shabby.